Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Tom Auger with some more Photoshop tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at layer effects, and lo and behold, we will attempt to create the progress bar you see above filled with some kind of orange liquid goo, possibly orange crush, God knows. Anyway, got some gratuitous animated bubbles in there that we might look at in a future tutorial. At this point, we're going to focus on just looking at the layer effects stacks and understanding how this is built, with the goal of making you able to not just recreate this particular effect, which is really just a novelty, but to actually better harness the full power of the layer effects stacks. I'm also in the process of writing a rather lengthy tutorial on my blog, www.tomauger.com. And it will be up eventually, but it's taken a long time because there's a lot to learn. So let's get started right away by looking at this file in Photoshop and seeing how it's built. So here's the file in Photoshop, and really the file is only 4 layers. There's a 5th layer which I gratuitously threw in as a background. There's about a billion other ways I could have created a black background, but since today's talk is about layer effects, I create a white background and perversely use the effects stack to apply a color overlay and set the color to black. So there. So we can disregard this black background and just focus on the other layers. In fact, there's really only 2 layers that are of any real value here. I'm going to hide the 2 bubble layers. Those were created as separate layers because I wanted them to be animated. They could have easily been incorporated into, if I didn't want them animated, directly into the orange crush layer. This is the layer that contains the liquid. As you can see, it's nicely transparent. It has a bunch of gradients, some nice irregularities, highlights here and there. Has a bit of a 3-dimensional effect to it. A little bit of a shadow that's going on. So adds a lot of depth. And then finally, the container layer itself. Let's do a little unnecessary zoom in there. Whoa, whoa. Check it out. Okay, we've got a lot of things going on in this layer. Some shadows, some highlights, a little bit of a pattern happening, just all kinds of stuff. So I want to dissect these step by step and help you understand how they've been built. So let's start zooming back out. Whoa! Whoa! Screen capture error! Screen capture error! Okay, we're back. Let's take a look at progress bar container. As you can see, this and the orange crush layer are entirely created using layer effects. Without the effects, they are nothing. Wow, there's your basic progress bar. Now let's dwell on this shot for just a minute because this is really important. This is the essence of your user interface, your UI element. And when you're using Photoshop to create UI elements, it's best if you keep them reduced down to their absolutely simplest components. This gives you maximum flexibility and also ensures that you'll be able to use these productively and script them when you use them in your website or your web app or your application or your software or wherever you're going to be using them. If you start creating lots and lots of complex graphical layers, then they will be limited in their ability to scale, to move, and to change according to the software's needs, the wireframe requirements, or even just your client or your own whims and whimsies. So we want to start with the really, really simple shapes. And so what we've done here is we've simply used a rounded rectangle created in Photoshop as a vector item. So we'll just take a look here. There it is. Basic rounded rectangle. No stroke with a black fill applied. And then on top of that, we've added basically just a rectangle, and I've done a clipping layer. In other words, this layer here is being clipped by the mask of this layer, by the shape of this layer, and that's done by holding down the Option key or the Alt key on the Windows machine and moving your cursor right between in the line. See, my cursor is in the line that separates those two layers. Holding down the Option key and then clicking. I'm going to turn that off now. You can see it's really just a square, a rectangle. And if I Option click or Alt click on the line that separates them, I'm going to get a clipping layer. That icon has just been updated in Photoshop version 13, which is bundled with Creative Suite 6, CS6. So Photoshop CS6 has a slightly different icon than you might be used to if you're an old school Photoshopper like myself. So a clipping layer is really a great thing because that's kind of how you kind of conceive of the construction of this object. The orange stuff, which is called the mercury, giving the old, thermometer, right? The old thermometer that used to have mercury in it. So the mercury of the progress bar is always going to be constrained by the shape of the progress bar itself. So it makes sense for that to be a clipping layer. The beautiful thing is, and let's just turn the effects on here. If I want to, this can be very easily modified, manipulated. And you can see how the effects continue along with it and just moves along as need be. So you can see that this will be very easy then to animate and then to export as needed. Alright, so enough showing off. Let's get into some serious showing off. I'm going to hide the effects. I'm actually going to just hide the mercury layer, the orange crush layer, and get right down to the progress bar. We're going to start with the basics. For each of these effects, talk a little bit about why I chose that particular effect, and look at the parameters and do a little explanation around each one. I'm limited to 15 minutes per YouTube video, and we're at 7 minutes right now, so I've got about halfway through, and I will certainly not get through all of these effects, so you'll have to stay tuned for section 2 after the break.